Hi, it's really good to see you, or at least be seen by you. I hope most of you are able to stay home and stay safe. And thank you to those of you who I know will be out on the front line serving our communities in all kinds of ways. We'd love to hear from you, to know how you're doing and to know how we can pray for you. So please do get in touch. This is a short reflection for Tuesday, the 7th of April, the Tuesday of Holy Week. As I was preparing for today, one verse really jumped out to me. It's for the Gospel reading from today's morning prayer, and it goes something like this. When he got up from prayer, he came to the disciples and found them sleeping because of grief. It's from a really familiar scene. It's from what we might know as the Garden of Gethsemane, just before Jesus is arrested. He's told the disciples to watch and to pray, and he comes back and they're having a nap, and he isn't very impressed. He says they should be watching and praying for this really important time. And I'd never noticed before that it says the disciples are sleeping because of grief. I think it stood out because it feels so familiar. I've had so many conversations recently with people who are just exhausted and can't quite put their finger on why. And I think part of that is the grief of the present situation. The grief of not being able to see our friends and loved ones, particularly on special occasions, on birthdays or on Mother's Day. The grief of not being able to meet together, to worship and receive communion. The grief of seeing the news that frontline workers have been taken critically ill by COVID-19, including our own Prime Minister. And the very particular grief of knowing people we love are critically ill, some approaching their time of death, and not being able to go to them in the way we would want to do. The grief and the weight of that is very heavy. It feels relentless, and it feels like it's already been relentless for quite some time. We don't know where this is heading or how this will end, and it is exhausting. I wonder whether some of that is true for the disciples as well. As they follow Jesus to his passion, they see his teaching stirring up the crowds. They listen more attentively than anybody to his ominous predictions and his tales of what is going to happen. They've just had that intense Last Supper where he tells them even their close-knit group of 12 will be affected by disunity and disloyalty, that the safety of that will be betrayed and they will be afraid. It's incredibly weighty, and we know it's only going to get worse. They see the writing on the wall. They know Jesus can't keep provoking the authorities like this and not live to see the consequences. They will soon see him arrested, beaten, mocked, and crucified. They will see the person they love, their inspiration, the one they put their hope in, mistreated and humiliated in the most awful ways. And they will watch on from a distance, unable to change it. The grief must have been unbearable. In a time which seems so difficult, in which there is so much darkness amidst all the wonderful things we have to be grateful for, many of us will be looking for something solid to grasp onto, something to hold dear that isn't going to change. It's worth remembering that our God is no stranger to darkness. He knows the weight of our grief and our fear, and the frailty of our hope. He knows what it is to lose loved ones and to be approaching death himself. He is our light in the darkness, and the darkness will not overcome it. He will be our constant companion in a world which feels overwhelmed by fear and grief. When we find it difficult to watch and pray, He will pray for us, and the Spirit will intercede with sighs too deep for words. But the presence of God will not leave us. He will be faithful to the end. In whatever is to come, our God will be with us and with those we love and pray for. Amen.